Hey, good morning, everybody. This is going to be kind of like old home week today. So we decided to at the last minute we decided to bring back in our patriotic intro, mainly because I haven't got around to doing the new intro. But in any case, I hope you like that little bit of flashback to the patriotic intro there. Good morning, Fred. How you doing today?
Doing well. I like the intro. It's pretty good.
Yeah. I do too. I like that one in particular. But hey, welcome everybody to another edition of Patriot Pulse Podcast. And as you remember from last week, hopefully, that we are combining this with, since we still maintain the Two Guys Drinking Coffee page, and we're simulcast to that page as well. We are calling this Patriot Pulse Podcast and Two Guys Drinking Coffee. And today we have a special guest. It hasn't been that long yet. It seems like that. I'm talking about since we last had Jim M on the podcast. And the one thing we could always depend on Jim bringing is the scoop on what's happening in the area of economy, financial situation, money aspect, all the things that he's went to school for that, and he always brought that to the table. So we're excited to have him back today, because that's something I feel has been sadly lacking since Jim M left the podcast. Because quite frankly, this topic just gives me a migraine, so I try to avoid it. I know it's like a ostrich with his head in the sand, but that's just the way it is. Anyways, so it's good to have him join us today, and I'll bring him on in a minute. He's going to bring us up to date on recent developments, including the Genius Act, stablecoin, other cryptocurrencies, CBDCs, and the Beast system, and anything else he wants to talk about. I'll also give you a little plug, Jim, before I bring you on. Jim has recently started another discussion group. I don't have all the details, but it's fashioned after what he started with the Bible study called Discerning the Times. I'm sure he'll tell us a little bit about that as well, and how you might be able to get some information on that. But before we bring him on, before we get going, just a little bit of housekeeping first. Don't forget, we are still being shadow banned on many platforms. We still go live to Patriot Pulse page, the Two Guys page on Facebook, X, Rumble, Kick, Twitch, and because we are the Patriot Pulse page is not permanently banned from YouTube, we're actually on YouTube live as well. So wherever you're watching us, click like, share, subscribe, whatever it is, and help us overcome the algorithms that are silencing all the truthers of the world. So without any further ado, let me bring Jim on to the podcast. Good morning, Jim.
Good morning.
How are you?
James,
How are you
Fred,
today?
I brought the old mug back here. So
The Two Guys mug.
back
Yeah.
memories.
Yeah, there you go. It's funny, Jim. When we were doing the podcast at the restaurant, my gosh, I'd go through 5 cups of coffee in that hour and a half that we were there. I don't drink coffee at home. I don't even Mary Perks her kind of coffee, which is mocha something or other. I'm drinking iced tea today. So 2 guys drinking coffee, 1 guy drinking iced tea. Is that fair enough?
I got coffee.
Oh, yeah, that's what I said. 2 guys drinking coffee. So, anyways, Jim, I know I have a couple thousand questions about all of this, but why don't we have you decide where to start? And as we do with all our guests, I'll let you lead the conversation. We'll just try to throw in some questions as they come up. Does that work for you?
That works. I'm very flexible. I do have some points to go over, but we can interject wherever it seems appropriate.
All right. Well, why don't you take it away where you want to lead us?
Okay, so let's start off with what's brought this whole discussion about. Last week, the Genius Act bill was signed. And for those who do not know what that stands for, it stands for Guiding and Establishing National Innovation for U.S. Stablecoins. That's a long sentence there with a lot of big words that most people probably don't really understand what that means.
Mhm.
So I want to kind of walk us through this. And to do that, we need to go back just a little bit. But before we get there, why is this important? Well, there's a couple of things. If you use money, it's important. If you don't use money in life, then you can move along. There's nothing to see here. But if you use money, if you pull out your wallet, you got cash or a credit card, whatever, this is going to affect you and in a very, very big way. And so you're going to have to
Okay.
figure out how you want to deal with it. First off, you're going to have to figure out what is truth in this. You're going to have to discern for yourself what is going on. So that's the first thing. If you use money, you might want to pay attention. The second thing is Trump stated that this is the greatest revolution since the internet. And I believe he also stated that this is the greatest financial change in 100 years. It was interesting, that 100 years part, because if you go back 100 years ago, that's when the Federal Reserve was founded. Roughly speaking.
1913, right? Yeah.
So that's kind of relevant that way. And the next thing is, what is truth here? What is actually going on? So Jim, can you pull up image G1 CBDC?
Sure.
Because there's two headlines there that completely contradict one another. The first one was from January, and we actually talked about this on the show back then. President Trump creates crypto council, bans CBDCs. The next one, which is actually just from last week, financial freedom is over. CBDCs now legal in U.S. Trump signs bill that establishes stablecoins as digital programmable money. And down below it says stablecoins are privatized CBDCs, another name, and so on and so forth. Okay, so you can take that down, Jim, if you wish. So what is truth here? Two completely contradictory headlines. And I'm not going to say what the truth is. You folks are going to have to figure that out for yourself, or at least what your opinion is. But one of the big things that concerns me is that this is a massive bill that went through. It's going to affect everyone's life, but most Americans haven't even heard of it, because what's been in the news for the last 2 weeks? The Epstein files, and now Obama has was doing treason and so forth. So I'm not getting into those topics, but it would appear, at least at one level, that they're saying, look over there, but don't look here, because this Genius bill simply isn't in the news unless you're really kind of looking for it. It might be mentioned, but it's not talked about like, say, the Epstein files or this newer stuff has been.
I think I mentioned to you the other day when we were talking about all this is and I consider myself to be kind of pretty much in the know. I try to pay attention to what government's doing. I didn't know anything about the Genius Act till I saw that it was signed into law.
Yeah.
It's
been in the works for quite some time.
Yeah, but I didn't hear anything about it. So,
yeah. And that, in my mind, that shouldn't surprise us, because sometimes these things are just kind of stuck underneath the carpet, or other things are simply catching people's attention. And the reality is most people are working 9 to 5 or more, 2 or 3 jobs in some cases, and just trying to feed their families. So they don't have time to follow these things. So that's what your podcast is about, is trying to keep people informed. So let's go back a little bit, because like you said, Jim, you didn't hear anything about this stuff, but this isn't the first. This is really just the next step. So if we go back and take a look at the last 6 months, there's been the introduction of Stargate AI, several crypto executive orders. We even created the crypto czar person to help oversee all this. In addition to the Genius Act, there's been things like the Digital Asset Market Clarity Act, known as the Clarity Act. There's also been the Anti-CBDC Surveillance State Act that's been going through. In March, there was a couple executive orders that were signed updating the U.S. Treasury. Jim, I'm not sure if we talked, and Fred, I'm not sure if we talked about this on the show back then, or if it happened just after I kind of left the show. Starting at the end of September, all U.S. government transactions are going to be done digitally.
Yeah, we did talk about that because that was just coming out. We really didn't do a deep dive into it though, because I think it was so new.
Yeah, it was. And essentially, like if you get a Social Security check or you go make a quarterly tax payment or any transaction with the US government, checks, money orders, cash is all gone. It's all digital going forward.
Well, I would suggest that in being a person that does receive us, because I'm of the age, do receive a Social Security check. The very first thing I did was sign that up for direct deposit because I didn't want to hassle with the check or didn't want it delayed or lost in the mail. So it made perfect sense to have it direct deposited into my bank account. Would you consider that a digital transaction then?
Well, we
Direct
all do
deposit?
digital transactions. If you pull out your credit card or I just set up a new account, switching over an IRA. I did an ACH transfer from my bank account to the other organization. So we all do digital. The thing with the government in that particular case is the option to do cash or check is over.
Right.
Digital is
Okay.
now mandated. You don't have a choice anymore.
Now, this is the same thing that Elon put into place, though. He was part of getting that put in place because it creates a digital receipt so they can check out every transaction from every government official. And he said the moment he put that in place, a lot of money stopped being withdrawn. It's kind of weird. I don't know
just
how
lost
it
you,
works.
folks.
It's weird. Huh? It's a lie? Okay, gotcha.
Okay,
I
hold
can
on.
hear
Fred,
you.
could you repeat that? You froze on my end.
Oh, they said something about they did that so that it would create a digital receipt so they could track all government spending. And they
Yes.
said the moment they put that digital thing in place, a lot of money checks that were being written from the government just stopped getting written all of a sudden. I don't know if that's true or fake.
Well, when we read this Genius Act from the White House fact page, there's a key word, and I'm gonna refer back to what you just said, Fred, when we get
It's
there.
interesting.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because that brings up a really, really good question. Okay, and then if we go back even underneath the Biden administration, I do remember us talking about the FedNow system, their new payment system that was upgraded and so on and so forth. And we were concerned about the FedNow system being used to bring in a central bank digital currency. FedNow did not go away. It went
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit there, Jim.
Oh boy, he had a sensitive
trying to
topic.
do in terms of transferring data. Oh boy, I just lost everything. Okay, you back? Okay,
Yeah,
so this has
you,
been going on.
you're
This,
gonna have
this is
Jim. You're gonna have to repeat that because you did freeze and it kind of pixelated for a minute on the
I'm not
audio.
sure what that is. But anyhow, so even underneath Biden, they put in place the FedNow system, and
Right.
so
That-
this is
yeah.
this is just one more step or another piece to the puzzle, maybe. So
Well,
this is really new.
Let me interject a question then, and I think I even raised this question back in the day. All right, so can there be a separation between what the government does? In other words, they could elect, which they have already done, to do everything electronically, but until and if they mandate that to the general public, it's almost like a company deciding we're going to do direct deposit on all paychecks. You don't, that's just what we're going to do. That's our new policy. And you say, okay, we'll go along with that, but I still use cash when I go to the grocery store. Well,
Mhm.
Use that same analogy for the government and say, okay, the government's going to do digital or electronic transfers for all things, but you guys can still use cash. I mean, is that fair assessment, or do you see this leading down a darker path?
Well, I think it's leading down a darker path, and exactly a path that's been predicted for a long time. What the Genius Act is, and in a lot of ways, it really is very ingenious because they are pursuing their agenda in a different way. Because I'll say from the conservative side, the outlash to a central bank digital currency was loud enough that I believe they don't think they can pursue that, at least on the surface. So they got to kind of backdoor it. And that's what the Genius Act is all about. And it serves a couple other purposes too that we'll get to in a moment.
Mhm.
So I think we're
Okay.
going down a dark path, but you folks can all make your own decisions on that.
Yeah.
I
Hey,
don't trust bankers. That's my bias.
let me take a minute to do some shouts out here because I was just looking at some of the comments. We got Diane with us. Tom, of course, is on here with us. Good morning, guys. Tammy's on. Our Jim, our friend Kelly from Washington State. Good morning, Kelly.
Good morning,
She's
everyone.
on. She says, here, the gang's all here. So
All their chats are not showing up on the post though.
yeah. Well, I'm not sure why. Can't I'm not sure why. I mean, they're coming up on my side, but
Me too.
Brian's on here. He says, well, I'll even put it up here for you, Jim. People are glad that you're back on here on the thing. So also, Tom, and this is something we talked about, bring back the silver certificate, wishful thinking, eh? So I'm sorry to interrupt you there. I just wanted to do shout outs there and say hello to everybody.
I'm glad you did that because I can't see any of that because I'm on this end. So that's nice that you did. And a good morning to everyone out there. Hope you all have your coffee. So
okay, so I interrupted you. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, so the history is there. Think of this as just one more step to the piece, another piece in the puzzle. So let's go back and start defining something so everyone's on the same page. Because everyone talks about meme coins, crypto, stable coins, tokenization. What does that all mean? Because they don't all mean the same thing, but oftentimes they're all grouped together. So let's go through a few things here.
Okay.
Meme coins. People may have heard this phrase called meme coins. Some rock star puts out a meme coin and you can buy it. The easiest way I can think of that, remember back in the day, we used to trade baseball cards?
And they still do.
And they still do. So a meme coin is in essence an old baseball card, just digitized. Okay. Right. You would have growing up, we had the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Pirates. So I grew up in the Pittsburgh area. So you might have a Mean Joe Green football card or a Franco Harris, Terry Bradshaw. And someone would say, I'll give you a Terry Bradshaw for a Franco Harris, or, here's a buck for this baseball card or whatever. A meme coin is basically the same thing. Okay. It's just an electronic baseball card, so to speak, but it could be anything. Fred, you could put out a meme coin, the Fred Wilbon meme coin, and people might buy it. You can put it on a crypto exchange and we can all buy Fred's meme coin if we want. So that's an option that way. And I think I just got lost.
Well, does that have a value other than the fact that somebody's willing to buy it as an oddity or it's not it's not like Fred would be minting money or creating money, would it? I mean, the meme, the meme coin thing has me bewildered. Jim, your audio's pixelating again a little bit. I think it's your internet.
Yeah, I'm
frozen.
Yeah, you're frozen, Jim. You might, Jim, if you can hear me, you might want to drop off and come back in.
Yeah, that's funny.
He might not even be able to hear me. So I'm not sure
if I should keep talking until he comes back on, I guess.
Well, I'm going to text him while we're trying to wait for him to come back on here. Let me see here. Bear with me here while I text Jim.
Yeah, it's that whole meme idea for a coin doesn't make any sense at all. But I hope it doesn't get that desperate. I mean, yes, baseball cards are still a thing, believe it or not, because just last week, Caitlin Clark's basketball card, her private card, sold for $15,000. Just a basketball card. So that stuff is still around, even though people don't see it as much as others do, but it's still around.
All right. So he dropped off. Let's see if he comes back on. He's texting me back here. Let's see what's going on here. I apologize, everybody, for dead air. You never want to see that in radio or TV.
It's okay. It just dropped on him.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yeah, I just put up there for Tom. My wife tells me she was a big Mickey Mantle fan back in the day, and she had a Mickey Mantle card, and it would have been one from probably the
Bubblegum.
early 1960s.
That's a multi-million-dollar card today.
So we have been, every time we go through some of her old stuff, we're desperately looking. Hopefully we can find that old card.
That's like a multi-million-dollar card today if she found it.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So some of the questions I had for Jim, and hopefully he's going to get back on. Let me do this. Let me give him a call. And never mind. He's coming back on now. Let's see. Gotta wait for him. There we go.
There he was.
Yeah, I think the internet is just not.
You're having one of my days, what I had a couple weeks ago.
Yeah. It's that wireless. I'll tell you what.
I went away from it. I went to the Ethernet, like you told me.
Yeah.
Seems like the Ethernet works 100 times better.
Jim, you're showing up in my little preview if you can hear me, but when I try to add you to the stage, I don't think the internet signal is strong enough to bring you on stage.
Yeah, man, you're kind of looking like me with the lights turned off. Somebody's got to throw a joke in there.
You made me laugh there, Fred. You made me laugh. All right. Let me try here again. I just think it's Jim's internet here. I had to have him get in the car and come down to the house, and he can sit in my seat here.
There you go. He should.
It'd take him like 15 minutes to get down here.
He's close to you.
Yeah, he is. He dropped off again. Still technical difficulties, and we've already lost four viewers that got tired of waiting. So sorry, guys.
Well, I'll mention something that I said. I'll mention something that I was saying off cam about everybody's focused on all these little stories that are going on in the government, but everybody, please pay attention to the fact that there are mosques popping up all over our country. New York's going to got a governor. Not a governor, a mayor that's running for a mosque, and New York currently has 570 mosques in the state of New York. The big move is for Muslims to take over the state of New York, and they're working on California too, because in California there's 481 mosques there. You realize they get two of the biggest states in the country, and they're going to control a lot of politics, and it won't be long before you see Sharia law. So be aware.
Yeah. Could be. I'm calling Jim right now.
I'm in your studio.
Let me try to bring it back on, Jim. See, it is still.
There he is.
All right. Holy mackerel. All right. Can you hear me, Jim?
We can keep trying this. I keep losing you, but see what happens.
Yeah. Well, let's hope the internet
shall we try to continue?
Stays up. Yeah, let's try.
Okay.
We were talking about the meme coins.
Yeah, and that's not the focus. It's just a quick thing. Think of it as a digital baseball card. Then you have regular cryptos that actually do something, like XRP, for example. XRP actually helps facilitate the transfer of money much faster, much cheaper than the SWIFT system. In the old days, you used to go and get a Western Union MoneyGram or something like that. Then you had the SWIFT system. Now you can do things like with XRP. XRP is also known as the banker's crypto. I always figure the banks never lose, so that might be one worth considering buying. Then you have stable coins, and they're actually backed by something because they're supposedly stable. I love that word, stable. It makes you feel so good, gives you that warm and fuzzy feeling. It's stable. Our whole world nowadays just seems to be crazy, seems to be chaotic. So they gave it a nice name called stablecoin. Now,
makes me think of horse shit.
well, that's for you to decide. Okay, so there are stable coins out there in the past, or now the Genius Act actually makes it all legal and stuff, but they existed before, or I shouldn't say legal, but more regulated. But stable coins can be backed by anything. And one in particular, and you know I'm a fan of gold and silver. There's Paxos Gold that is actually backed by gold. Others are backed by like Tether or the U.S. dollar stable coin, not the U.S. government dollar yet. Anyhow, that's backed by U.S. dollars. So if it's a U.S. dollar backed stable coin, you have a stable coin, and for every stable coin, it's backed by U.S. dollar. If you have a Paxos Gold coin, it might be worth say $3,500 because that's the price of 1 ounce of gold today. So one Paxos Gold coin equals 1 ounce of gold, but it's backed by something.
Can I interject a question here then? All right. So if, as we talk, let's say one stable coin equals $1 because it's backed by by the dollar. But if the dollar is in essence worthless right now, some estimates that it's only worth like 10 cents now. If the dollar is worthless, wouldn't that mean that the stable coin is worthless as well?
Well, I'll tell you what, that's for each person to decide because the value of something is determined by what people are willing to pay for it. And when we actually read the White House fact sheet, it might become clearer to you at that point.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. I'll try not to interrupt. Good.
Oh, no. I just, you're jumping ahead and we're almost there. Like hold that question for about 30 seconds. Okay.
Okay.
And then just this tokenization, you hear that phrase out there a lot. Tokenization is simply this. It is taking something that exists in the real world and digitizing it, or put it this way, say you own a car.
Yeah.
A car can be tokenized. And this has some very nice appealing aspects to it. All the information about that car can be on that token. The owners, the VIN number, the insurance information, everything. If I want to sell my car to Fred, I can simply sell him that token. I don't need a lot of middlemen. You're going to sell your house could be tokenized. You will no longer need a real estate agent. You will no longer need someone to do the deed research at the county courthouse. You will no longer need a bank to be involved. You can buy and sell that token that represents your house, that has all the information about your house on it, and do it very quickly. So there's some very appealing. What's that?
What if they steal it?
Well, that could happen as well. And we'll talk a little bit about that as we go forward.
Lord. Okay,
so everything can be tokenized, including you. Okay. And you say, how can you be tokenized? Because with these things, they will, and I'm losing you again.
I hear you.
You're still
back
coming
here on our end.
Okay. So you can be tokenized in the sense that all your buying habits, all your personal behaviors, even your DNA, your biometrics can all be put onto a token that represents Fred or Jim or somebody else. And so you may not be like sold in the sense like you would sell a car or something, but your token with all your spending and buying preferences can be sold to a company. In a sense, they kind of already do this because we all know that they're collecting our data, but now it becomes one step farther to tokenizing you. So that's what tokenization is, but that's not the full purpose of this discussion. But that gives you a little background of what memes, cryptos, stable coins, and tokenization is. Let's get to the Genius Act, because the Genius Act focuses on stable coins, gives you that warm and fuzzy feeling because, James, as you said, the dollar is losing value and people are leaving the US dollar. And we're going to get to that. But first, let's listen to what Trump said with that video, James. Can you pull that up?
Sure, just a second.
And it's about a 1 minute, 30-second clip. He introduces the Genius Act.
Okay.
This is not an auto pen, by the way. With today's signing, we're pushing even further into the exciting new frontier. Just as I promised last year, the Genius Act creates a clear and simple regulatory framework to establish and unleash the immense promise of dollar-backed stable coins. This could be perhaps the greatest revolution in financial technology since the birth of the internet itself. Let me say the entire crypto community, for years, you were mocked and dismissed and counted out. You were counted out as little as a year and a half ago. But this signing is a massive validation. And even before this signing, over the last year and a half, I think your stuff has gone up more than any stock, or just about more. A couple of stocks that were pretty good, I will say. But you have certainly, as an industry, gone up more than anybody. Nobody's gained the respect in such a short period of time. But this signing is a massive validation of your hard work and your pioneering spirit and your ability to never give up. You've made our dollar look really good and strong and powerful. It's good for the dollar and it's good for the country. And that's why I backed you at an early stage. And I also did it for the votes, because you did come out and vote. I will tell you. Yeah, we worked hard. It's a very important act. The Genius Act, they named it after me, and I want to thank you. I want to thank you. This is a hell of an act.
Okay.
Okay, James. So there are a couple of interesting things in there. One, it is not an auto pen. So we know that he is indeed signing this bill, and that he's taking full responsibility for it, which, by the way, from a local level, our state representatives and senators Fetterman, McCormick, and Thompson all voted for it, and Trump signed it. Okay, so they're all in agreement on this. Trump jokingly says they signed it after him, a genius. But Jim, you might have caught that phrase at the beginning. They're backed by U.S. dollars.
Mm-hmm. Which, in
and
essence,
what did you just say about the U.S. dollar?
It's worthless.
I'll let folks decide for themselves if they think this is good or bad just based on that statement. But let's go a little bit deeper into this. Jim, can you pull up the White House fact sheet?
Sure can. Give me a second here. Let's see here.
Oh, I deleted that tab.
Fact
Hold
sheet.
on here.
Yeah, you're not going to be able to read it, Jim. I know, but hopefully other people will be.
No,
able
you know what? I had it on a tab, but when we lost connection, I started switching things. I got it over here. Okay, so we're good to go.
Yep. The title is
so
fact sheet. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So there's a fact sheet from the White House. President Donald J. Trump signs Genius Act into law, making America the leader in digital assets. And again, all these executive orders and past legislation, we are definitely going down this route. This is just another step or another piece to the puzzle.
Yeah, I want to point out this is from the whitehouse.gov, dated July 18th, 2020.
Yes, I tried to use original source material the best I can.
Okay.
So underneath bullet point 1 in that first section, it says the Genius Act prioritizes consumer protection, strengthens the U.S. dollar's reserve currency status, and bolsters our national security. So, Jim, yeah, this actually has a lot to do about the U.S. dollar. Let's scroll, and we'll talk more about that. I got a couple images we'll show in just a few moments. The next part that I want to pull out, where it says protecting consumers in a digital market.
Yeah, right here.
President Trump. Well, actually, you know what, James? Go back one thing. Let's do this first. Are you able? Is this going to be too difficult? Can you pull up image G2 dollar?
Yeah, I'm going to have to stop sharing just for a moment, but I can go to that image too, and then we'll go back to the sharing.
Yeah, let's do it this way, because that first part talks about bolstering the U.S. dollar, and Trump said it himself. Most people are not aware that in the first 6 months of this year, the dollar has been on a rapid decline. The dollar had, and this is an article title, you can pull up a bunch of these. The dollar had its worst first half in more than 50 years. And the question is, will it continue? And James, can you pull up G3? It's titled something like DXY. This is a dollar index, and I just pull this up, folks. You can Google this on a daily basis if you want, or once a week, once a month. But the dollar index, there's like the US dollar, the British, the German, the French, the Canadian dollars are all in this basket of currencies, and they value themselves against each other. The US dollar at the beginning of this year was about a value of 110. Now it's about 97. It has lost about 11% of its value, the most dramatic decline in the last 50 years to the first 6 months of the year. Okay, you can pull that down, James. So this is clearly about protecting the US dollar as a first thing. Jim, can we pull up the fact sheet again?
Sure can. Okay.
Okay, and we're going to scroll down to the part where it says protecting consumers in the digital market. I'm going to read just the first sentence here because I find this very fascinating. President Trump supports the Genius Act because it protects consumers from nefarious actors in the financial markets. Nefarious. That makes it sound like there's criminal activity going on.
There has been.
At least that's my impression.
Okay.
I got a question here because I've been following the financial stuff since the crisis of 2008, when the banking industry literally brought the global economy to its knees. I can't think of a single banker, a single nefarious actor in the financial markets that have gone to jail. Now, maybe I'm incorrect, but I don't know of anyone that's going to prison. Where are the arrests? There are none.
So the bankers are in on it.
What's that?
The bankers are in on it. They always get rich.
So what it sounds to me like, and we're going to have to investigate these consumer protection things, which one of them is biometrics. Okay, so if we want to bring consumers protection, we have two options. One, we can reduce the consumer's liberty, which is what this might be about, moving us to a digital cashless society. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but moving us in that direction. Or we could simply arrest the nefarious actors. But we will never, ever arrest the nefarious actors. We simply continue to impose anti-liberty things on the American people. That's my take.
Maybe I'm missing something here, but the more we put on a digital platform, the more vulnerable it becomes to hacking, for example. Okay. So to me, anything digital in the cloud, whatever you want to say, is much more insecure or unsecure than what might be in the bank or what might be in my wallet right now. I don't know if you agree with that point or not.
I think there's definitely an issue there. What if the grid goes down, or even not the grid go down? What if we just had internet problems like we just did, and you can't transact at all? So I think it's always a good thing to have something like some cash, just in case, you can't use a credit card if you're shopping or something. So this move towards all digital, what if the digital system has a problem and you don't get your Social Security check on time? There's no option to pay by cash anymore, or to get a check anymore, or at least later in September. So yeah, James, you bring up a really good point there, and that's something that we need to think about.
Now,
You still want this up?
Did the tariffs move make the U.S. dollar start to fall because people were so pissed off about the tariffs?
Boy, that's a side note, Fred, and that could be a show in and of itself. I will.
I mean, because people are backing off of it, but
I will make the statement. Yes, the world is not happy, and I don't want to go down this road too far. But I'll back it up with some evidence. 100 days ago, say at the end of March, or at least on April 2nd, we heard a statement that the goal was to get 90 deals in 90 days, and that countries around the world were begging the United States to make a deal. Since then, we have heard numerous extensions to trade deal deadlines. We've heard at best a handful of deals, and if you actually look at them, they're really not deals. In fact, Peter Navarro on Fox News Sunday said, a lot of these deals are unilateral deals. What did he mean by that? He said, we are simply imposing a 10 or 15% tariff on the other country. There is no discussion. That's why it's a unilateral deal. There are no discussions. So there is, and I'll put it this way, Fred. Boy, I don't want to go down this road, but on Wall Street, there is now what's known as the taco trade. What does taco stand for? Anyone know?
I don't know. What? Tell me.
Trump always chickens out. He has backed down on one deal after another. At least that's how Wall Street is now perceiving it. That's not my saying it. This is Wall Street saying it. So
the only reason I brought up the tariffs thing is because all your media stations are just blackballing everybody and saying America's crazy with these tariffs. Although nobody's looking at the other side of the picture where they've been putting tariffs on us for so long. So we decided to play the same game, and now we're the bad guy. That's my question. That's the reason why.
Okay, so there's like I said, this is a whole other show. The reality is, yes, the tariffs are making the rest of the world very angry. I'll just leave it at that. So this would then bring into the next part here, Fred. Jim, can you pull up the White House fact sheet again? Because we're going to read the next section.
Okay. I wasn't sure if you still wanted that up. I figured I could always bring it back up.
Now, there's another part. Can you go down, because I can't see your screen well. Go down to combating illicit activity in digital assets.
Right there. Right there.
Okay. Hold on. I went down. Bring it up a little bit. Go to the section that says ensuring U.S. dollar global reserve currency status.
Right
Got that
there.
one?
Yep.
Okay. So the first bullet point. Actually, I'll read the first part and then the next part here. So by driving demand for U.S. treasuries, that, folks, is U.S. debt. Stable coins will play a crucial role in ensuring the continued global dominance of the U.S. dollar in the world's reserve currency. Okay. So now these stable coins, and you can pull that down, Jim. These stable coins are apparently designed to help support the U.S. debt. So why do we need that? Jim, can you pull up image G4?
There you go.
Investors dump U.S. government bonds as faith in America falters. Okay. Investors are dumping once reliable U.S. government bonds, sparking fears that major banks and traders are losing faith in America as a safe place to store their money. That could be bad news for U.S. President Donald Trump, who had hoped his tariff pause earlier this week would restore confidence in the markets. Okay, you can pull that down. That actually is a couple of months old. And so back then it was part fact, part theory. Now it's a whole lot more fact. And the White House fact sheet would seem to indicate that it is continuing, because one of the purposes of the stable coin is to support the U.S. Treasury. Okay, how does that work? So let's say, for example, I'm Walmart, and I wish to issue a Walmart stable coin, because anyone can now issue these things. And James, we're going to get to the Constitution part in just a moment, but this ties directly in with this Treasury topic. Mm-hmm. So Walmart wants to issue a stable coin so that their customers can buy Walmart products with Walmart stable coins. Kind of like the old company store from about the late 1800s, if anybody remembers their history. Stable coins will be backed by U.S. treasuries and U.S. dollars. So let's say, for example, I'm a consumer at Walmart, And Walmart, and we'll get into this in a little bit too, Walmart says, you know what? If you purchase Walmart products with a Walmart stablecoin, you'll get 10% off. Okay, little incentive here. It's kind of like about 5 years ago. If you get the jab, Krispy Kreme will give you a free donut. Okay,
Yeah.
it's kind of a very similar type of thing that's probably going to play out here because looks like how it's going to play out. So you as a consumer will say, okay, I'll give Walmart $100, and I will now get 100 Walmart stable coins. But if I use those stable coins, I now get 10% off of any of the products. So I make 10% on the deal. Walmart gets US stable coins or US dollars. Walmart then goes to JP Morgan Chase or Wells Fargo, Bank of America. It's one of the big banks out there that are going to be the regulatory force or the middleman, I guess you could say, between this. Walmart gives JP Morgan Chase 100 US dollars, and JP Morgan Chase then buys $100 worth of US treasuries. Are you seeing the big picture here?
I'm seeing that Walmart don't even give their associates 10% off all their products. Why would they give their customers any different?
Okay, Fred, you're missing the. Okay.
I'm just joking. I'm joking.
Okay, I mean that's a side topic. That's a distraction right now. And not to be rude to you, but we need to stay focused on this.
I'm missing. All right, do that again. I'm missing the connection between Walmart issuing the stable coin, people using the stable coin to buy Walmart goods, and then Walmart going to JP Morgan Chase. I'm missing that connection.
Okay, James, we just clarified that the US dollar and the US Treasury, the debt market, is in trouble. No one is buying the debt. So the US government is looking for someone to buy the US debt because remember, we're still running $2-3 trillion deficits every year. And with the big, beautiful bill, that's going to add an additional $4 trillion onto it, or maybe a half a trillion dollars every year on top of that debt. So we have a ton of debt that needs to be purchased. We also have $10 trillion in debt that's already out there that needs to be refinanced this year. Long story short, the US government has a lot of debt to issue and no buyers. They're looking for new buyers.
Let me ask you a question then, because this begs the question. One of the problems that we've identified many times on this podcast is the fact that the debt is unsustainable. Okay. Yes. And sooner or later, we don't know when, and we don't know who's going to pull the plug, but sooner or later, the plug's going to be pulled and the whole financial system is going to come crashing down.
Right.
Some might argue that this is accelerating that, and that if they can't sell the debt, then that would in essence be the triggering point that the system fails. I mean, and again, I'm not the financial guy. It gives me a headache, I admit, and I'm having a hard time following sometimes, but does that even remotely make sense?
Okay. So yeah, we're on a razor's edge. We have been for a long time.
Yeah.
The government is continuing with its deficit spending with the big, beautiful bill. And so we need to finance the debt somehow. We just showed with the US dollar and the US debt images that we pulled up, like G2, 3, 4, that people don't want the US dollar and people don't want our debt anymore, at least not foreigners. Okay. And maybe even, I don't know, I haven't bought any treasuries lately. Maybe you have, but I sure haven't. So people don't want to buy the debt anymore. People don't want the dollar anymore. The government here, it appears, one aspect of this. One aspect is to digitize dollars to move us to a cashless society. The other aspect is to kick the can down the road some more, James. They're going to try to get the American consumer to buy the debt by buying stable coins. And they're going to give, just like Krispy Kreme gave free donuts, they're going to give through Walmart and other companies a little bit of an incentive for people to buy these stable coins. And 99% of people will not realize that when they buy that stable coin, so they get a free gimmick, a 10% discount or something at Walmart or at the hospital or wherever it is, that they are behind the scenes actually buying US treasuries.
So who is issuing these stable coins?
It can be any company out there now. Anyone can. Walmart can. Tops can. Go to Tops. Hey, we'll give you extra bonus points if you use a Tops bonus or a Tops stable coin. Your healthcare
Give you-
provider.
Give you gas points.
Yeah, give you gas points. Your health provider. You know what? If you use, I don't know, BRMC or a local hospital stable coins, get a free checkup every year or something like that. There's going to be some type of incentive to use these things because people won't naturally use them unless they're given an incentive. They demonstrate that with the jab. They gave you an incentive to get the jab.
What is the incentive, though, for issuing companies or entities? In other words, there's a lot of logistics, I would imagine, that would go into doing that. Meaning it adds a whole completely new layer of administration to do that. What is all right? Let's use your Walmart scenario. What is the incentive for Walmart to do that?
Okay, well, think of it this way: they're already doing it. Okay, I've got a Sheetz card. I've got a Country Fair card. Okay, when I go into Country Fair, if I pull out my Country Fair card, I get. Well, let's put it this way: I go to Country Fair right now because I got a Country Fair card, and I can buy any size cup of coffee for 99 cents. So when I show them my Country Fair card, I get that cup of coffee that would be $2.85. I get it for $1. Okay, we're already doing this. The only difference now is Country Fair. It might stop issuing that card per se, that that preferred customer card or whatever, and say if you use Country Fair stable coins, you will get that coffee for $1 instead of $2.85. We're already kind of doing it. They're just making it a digital.
There's no incentive to do that.
No, I wouldn't buy that coffee at Country Fair for $2.85, but I surely will for $1.
Right, but they're already doing that with their loyalty card.
Because that coffee's only worth $1.
But now they're moving it. But now they're going to move it digital. This is another step in the direction of digital. Another step in the direction of moving us away from cash.
That I got. But I'm going to go back to the question, and treat me like I'm 3 years old, and you're trying to teach me how to potty train.
Okay.
What I'm Walmart or Country Fair or whoever, and I've already got this loyalty card, or I'm Tops. You even mentioned Tops. I'm Tops, and I've got this bonus card that if I use the bonus card, I get free gas points. If I use the Country Fair card, I get my coffee for $1. I've already got these things in place. All right. My initial investment in putting this system in place is already absorbed. Now it seems to me that there would be a whole nother investment in their administration, their developing this system to do their own stable coin. What is their incentive to go that next step? Is the government bribing them? I mean, what is their incentive to do that?
Okay, so there's two things. One, it might actually be simpler because it's all digitized. You don't have to worry about cards and everything else like that. The second thing is, maybe they are being bribed. Maybe they are.
And to me, I don't see how they don't have enough incentives right now already, because most grocery stores and most government, they're all benefiting from people who don't work, called food stamps. And so therefore, it's guaranteed money. People on food stamps don't have to look at the price. They don't have to look at anything. They get a set amount of money. They buy what they want. It's all taken care of by the government. So, but they're not putting anything into it. The government's already paying it. So why don't you just live on that benefit? Because you're getting them food stamps.
All right, I got
okay.
another question here. Go ahead, answer Fred there, and then I'll
Well,
ask
I'm
mine.
not so sure it's a threat. I mean, this is part of the question, and Jimmy, you asked a good question in that what is the incentive for the company to do that? I think we're
Right.
going to have to wait and see a little bit to see how this plays out. We do know that during the during the cough, businesses were given very big incentives to play along. So I suspect there will be very big incentives to play along here too. Some of that might not be known. What we're going to have to do is wait until Walmart or Country Fair issues their stable coin and then look into that more directly. But this we do know. The government is behind this in a very, very big way. The government, based on what we just shared this morning, might say to the CEO of Walmart, CEO, we need treasuries to be bought. We need you to do this. Otherwise, this whole system might come crashing down. That's a pretty big incentive to go along with it. That in and of itself. But there could be numerous other incentives. We don't know. I don't know the answers to all these questions.
Right.
Nobody does. The bill just came out last week. And technically, it doesn't take effect until they get all the rules laid out 120 days after that, or 18 months from now, I guess, whichever comes first. So,
Okay.
so we're still in the beginning stages of this. We don't know
Yeah.
all this, just everything.
Do you know then, based on what you've read so far, can the government, the federal government, issue their own stable coin, or are they planning on doing that, or are they going to depend on private industry?
Okay, so now this gets down to the whole CBDC thing and everything else. And so is the government going to do it? I don't know. That's a great question. Could they do it? Well, in a sense, if they require everyone to go digital, they are, in a sense, digitizing dollars. And so they are creating their own system that way. I think one of the things is not to be hung up, although stable coins is how it's being presented to the public. The bottom line is we keep moving towards a cashless society, one way or the other, whether it's by requiring all transactions with the U.S. government to be done digitally, and keep in mind that's not necessarily just Social Security checks and so forth. Let's say, for example, you're a contractor and you're building a building for the government, or the government has ordered toilet paper from Procter and Gamble. Well, all those transactions are maybe before they were done by check. Now it's done by digital. Could the government also say, any company that does business?
Uh-oh.
Now you're pixelating again, Jim.
We just lost each other again.
Yeah, no, you're back. You're back.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
So,
Yep.
yeah, the bottom line, this is just one more step in here. We have to see how it plays out. But here's the big thing. This is the first time that businesses like Walmart, Country Fair, Tops would, in a sense, be issuing their own currency. Okay? This brings up huge constitutional issues. James, can you bring up image G5?
Sure can. Let's see here. 5. Okay.
So this is from our Constitution, specifically Article 1, Section 8, Clause 5 states that Congress has the power to coin money, regulate the value thereof, and a foreign coin, and fix the standard of weights and measures. This is often referred to as the Coinage Clause. And then Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution prohibits states from coining money and making anything other than gold and silver coin legal tender. Okay,
Yep.
So we have been completely unconstitutional for at least since, say, 71, 65, because that's when we went off the silver and gold standards. Silver in 65, gold in 71. So everything we've been doing has been unconstitutional for the last 50 years or so.
I agree.
This-
Okay.
This is so we should all be outraged by the criminality that's already going on. Now, this is going to take it to a step farther, because now this is going to give because stable coins are now listed as currency. This is now giving private companies the right to issue currencies, even though it goes back to the US dollar and the US treasuries for government purposes for that, for sure. It's going down, the way of even, okay, not only don't we have this, the central bank is completely unconstitutional. Only treasury can coin money. The central bank makes money now. And now we're going to give the right to private companies to start making their own currency. Of course, in all this, who ultimately prints the currency still? It's still the Federal Reserve. So this is actually still giving the power back to the Federal Reserve. If the Federal Reserve is still issuing the money, and now this is all going digital into tokens with private companies, is this not still a central bank currency?
Yeah. I because it is backed by the dollar. Excuse me, by the dollar. Now, what that it lends a couple questions here. One, to me, anybody, and I'll throw this out there. The ones that have the incentive to do this are the let's just call them anti-Trumpers, anti-current administration, whatever you want to call them, would give them the incentive to sue or to challenge this law, this Genius Act at the Supreme Court, using the argument that it is violating the Constitution by allowing anybody to print currency, even if it's backed by the U.S. dollar. And the other thing I would even mention here is, and I don't quote me on the name, but I think it's Thomas Massey, and representative from Kentucky, I think. Didn't he? I think he has a bill, or he's sponsoring a bill. I don't know how far it is. Maybe it's still in committee, to end the Federal Reserve. So there is a certain faction in place that sees that after 108 years or 118 years, whatever it is, to 108 to get us away from the Federal Reserve, to go back to constitutional.
I'm losing you again. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. I apologize that you're.
Yeah, Thomas Massey. Yeah, okay.
Go ahead.
I have to look, but that does sound. I'm trying to Google real fast here. Thomas Massey and the Fed. Let me see what comes up. Maybe real fast here. Yeah, he did. March 5th, 2025. Representative Massey introduces Federal Reserve Board Abolition Act. Massey seems to be a pretty good constitutionalist. I'd have to check that. The
scorecard.
John Birch Society to see exactly how he does vote. But on this issue, I would agree. The Fed is wrong. Every American, whether you're a Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever, should be opposed to this bill because it's unconstitutional. I mean, that's the end of the discussion. It's unconstitutional.
Yeah. I agree.
It's almost taking us back to the mine token from West Virginia. If you worked in the mines, they printed their own coins, and you can buy stuff with their coins. It's all
at the
outdated.
company store. At the company store.
And
that's what
so,
Jim mentioned.
I don't see
earlier.
how anybody would want to agree to something as stupid as that, because really it's a trap.
I could do my Tennessee Ernie Ford impression and sing the song for you.
I mean, because that's what they did in the mines in West Virginia back in the day. Here, we got a coin for you. You can only buy from our store, though. I mean, that's basically what we're going back to. If they actually agree to this garbage.
Jim,
Okay.
it's 10 after or 5 after 10. I want to be sensitive to your time. Can you continue on for a little longer?
Yeah, I can. And I think, Fred, you just brought up a great point to help answer Jim's question earlier. Why would any company want to do this? Well, Fred, why did the mining companies do it? I mean, we have to go back and do some history. Why did companies back then find the company store, the company money of value? Why did they choose to do that? That might give us some
to keep them
insight
on
as
the
to why
property,
they
to keep them working, to
Well,
keeping the money flowing right back into their company.
Let me offer you another suggestion. That's a way to deflate the amount of money they're paying. So if I'm paying you $100, but I'm getting back a certain amount of that in prices that are inflated, then I'm basically paying you less money.
That's how they did it. Think about it. That money was worth nothing to nobody else but the mine company. You couldn't take it anywhere else and spend it anywhere else but with the mine company, which therefore they were paying you with faux money and still getting rich off of your back.
It's just a way of stealing from the miners.
Exactly.
Another thing with this, folks, and James and Fred, it popped in my mind as the incentive for a business to do this. We talked about the backdoor payoff maybe from the government or in some other fashion. One of the things that it looks like that's going to happen, and I heard it's in the bill. I didn't have a chance to read the full bill thoroughly, but I did read enough to confirm some of this other stuff that's on the White House back page, which I can't imagine what they would be lying about. It's on the White House page, but I'd like to try to confirm that. But biometrics play into all of this. And we do know that there is great, we talked about, if it's free or anything like that, you're the consumer, you're the product. Could companies be getting maybe from a genetic corporation? Look, you know what? When you sign people up to the stablecoin, they got to take a picture of their eye or face or hand or something like that, because that can be a part of all this because of security to protect us from nefarious individuals. Keep that in mind. So we need to make sure we have a zero trust policy. And zero trust is like Larry Ellison from Oracle. He has a zero trust policy, which means that if you want to work in their company, you have to give your biometric information over to them so that they can verify that it is indeed you, that is your eye, that is your fingerprint, that is whatever. Could this all be about gathering some genetics as well? I don't know. There's a lot. We're going to have to see how this plays out. But the bottom line is it's unconstitutional. Some are saying that this is actually worse than a CBDC because, and Jim, we talked a little bit about this Monday. Remember during the cough a couple years ago, the government really didn't mandate things. They recommended things. But the private businesses were the ones that turned that into a mandate. If you want to go into a store, you got to wear a mask. If you want to do this, if you want to keep this job, you have to get the jab. You got to do this. The government recommended, but the private entities mandated. And it was they're a private entity. They can do whatever they want. It's their business. They can do whatever they want. Could this be at some future date when the government wants something to happen, but they cannot enforce it because it's unconstitutional? They can recommend, and the businesses will say, unless you do this, you cannot use your stable coins here.
And those of us who have a pair will disobey, just like we did during the COVID.
But if now we're into a cashless society and everyone's using stable coins, we got to think down the road. We tend to think in weeks and months. I would say that the powers that ought not to be think in terms of years and even decades.
All right. I would say that is plausible if a company, let's again use the Walmart or the Country Fair examples that you used, if they said we will only accept the stable coins,
right?
In which case they'd be turning away customers that didn't use stable coins, and I'm not sure they'd be willing to do that. You can incentivize it by giving additional discounts, but unless you absolutely mandate it, they would be saying, I'm willing to give up all this extra business from people that don't want to use these. I'm not sure. And again, you're right. We're looking down. We're trying to use a crystal ball to look way down in the future. But for right now, I can't see people, especially people. I mean, we got an example of 3 of us right here on the screen right now that are representative of a larger block of people that are not willing to go live. A shirt, one of my shirts, it's not this one, but one of them that says, I will not comply. And I still wear that because there are still a block of people that will say, F you to the federal government.
Jim?
I will not comply.
If that's the case, then the local
so Jim,
farmer,
when you
if this is true, then the local farmer can create his own barter and trade coin, and they can sell to the people without the permission of the government. Because guess what? Now we can create our own coin, and we can do local trades with local farmers, which they don't let you do now.
Well, keep in mind, it's going to be regulated.
yeah,
Yeah, see,
you
that's
would
where
have
the
to go
problem
through-
comes
you
in.
have to go through the big banks, and I'm going to say the local farmer doesn't have the legal expertise or finances to set up a whole stablecoin system. Now, maybe if they gather together, they could do that. But who's going to
Exactly.
do
That's why
this?
they're trying
Businesses, bigger businesses. And in terms of do not comply, at the end of September, everyone that doesn't want to comply can say, no, I will not take my Social Security check digitally. I want a check. That's one way of not complying. I don't see anyone doing that. Most people will comply, and for some reason I'm going to run out of power here. I might have to get a power cord. It was fully charged earlier this day when I started this, but
Whatever you want to do.
I got 9% power. So think down the road how this might, ways that this can play out. We know first and foremost, and this is the fundamental thing, it's unconstitutional.
Yes.
We need to say no to it, period. We can hypothesize and make theories about what might happen, or, oh no, they would never do that. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Jim, on that video that you showed. Nope, I just lost Fred. I'm not sure where he went.
Yeah. I don't know. He dropped off for some reason.
She immediately said, who would have thought they would have shut down your businesses 5 years ago? So just because in our minds, we don't think things can happen, we need to be prepared and expect things to possibly happen because they've done it before. And I suspect they will do it again. If you remember during the cough, remember that coin shortage?
Oh, yeah.
There was absolutely no reason for a coin shortage. It was one could hypothesize. It was a test to see how people respond to a small sample of cashless.
All right. Yeah, you're right. And I agree with that. And I think the whole scamdemic thing was a giant test to see if people would go along and companies would go along. And I think they did, but I also think it brought out a whole faction of people, block of people, whatever, that woke up. There's still half the country that's sound asleep or sheeple or whatever you want to call them, that will go along with everything. But there are still, I think the ranks are growing of people that are seeing what happened, and they are coming over to the I will. Maybe I'm being wishful. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but I'm hoping more people are waking up to this, and they will come over to the I will not comply and stick their middle finger up to the federal government.
I would like to think that as well, but I'm not convinced of that. I don't see the evidence for it. We'll see right now if people start calling their representatives, and here locally, people, in my opinion, and I started calling last week, call Fetterman, McCormick, Thompson, and Trump, and call them and say, no, I'm against this bill. It's unconstitutional.
Yeah. Unfortunately, it's already been passed, but
things can be rewritten. You can change a law.
Yeah.
And they did it in a very sneaky way too. So
yeah, they did. I mean, it's almost like one of those bills that they snuck through committee with no fanfare. They put it on the floor. For all we know, they voted on it in the middle of the night.
I think Marjorie Taylor Greene did say something to that effect, and she voted no to it. It looks like everyone else kind of voted yes. And Jim, if we're going to stay on for a few more minutes, can I run and get a cord real fast?
I am going to leave that up to you.
Well, I have time if you want to keep talking about this. Let me get my cord.
Go ahead.
Talk about the Holy Roman Empire. It's neither Roman nor holy.
the Roman Empire. We're going back to the days of gladiators now. But but I'll tell you what, going to Jim's point while he's gone here, going to his point, even though it has already been passed, we can still express our oh, here we got Fred back. Let me get him back on the screen. Fred, Jim just bowed out of the picture a minute to get his power cord so he can stay on for a moment or two longer.
That is just crazy.
Yeah, the internet's playing tricks on us. So anyways, I was just saying we still have the option to get a hold of our representatives. And is anybody that's watched this podcast or these podcasts long enough, I am a big proponent of reaching out to your representatives, and I do this on a regular basis, both state representatives and federal representatives, senators and congressmen. And you can also reach out to, as a matter of fact, one thing that came across my mind, I support Judicial Watch, Tom Fitton's organization, who challenges a lot of things in court. I mean, they take the money we donate to them, and they pretty much hire lawyers to fight things that are illegal and so I would say some group, and I would encourage Tom Fitton's group, Judicial Watch, to challenge this law in court. I think that's our best bet to get this overturned.
And what I was going to say before the internet just kicked me off to the moon, there's a large group of farmers who are trying to get rid of the USDA control over the price of meat, because they believe that if they were in control of it, we could sell meat a whole lot cheaper. But so and I'm talking about a large group of farmers that want to do.
Fred just froze. Man, I'm telling you what, Jim, are you still with us?
I am.
Okay.
I don't think
All
they
right,
want
good.
the message getting out, James. That's just my thought.
I think you're right. I think you're right. So let's go back to the constitutionality of this too. I mean, if we talked about this a little off air, if you want to go strictly back to the Constitution, everything that has been done with anything that has to do with money has been unconstitutional since 1913. And I would suggest that Thomas Massey's bill, it would be the first step to remedy that. Your thoughts on that?
Well, the Federal Reserve is unconstitutional, so it simply needs to go away. Only the Treasury has the right to do the money thing, and it needs to be gold and silver. I mean, that's where we should go, which would bring me up to whatever happened to the audit of the Fort Knox that we heard so much about 5 months ago. Did they find the gold or didn't they?
That begs the question: do we even have it anymore?
You would think if we had it, they would want to probably announce it. And Jim, can I divulge into a little bit of gold and silver right now?
You go right ahead.
Okay, because one thing with stable coins, if people, because I want to present solutions to everything as well. So in terms of this bill, call the people, say no to it, or say I disagree with it, redo it, whatever. But it's very clear that this bill is about protecting the U.S. dollar and issuing more debt. I mean, that's right in the words. We read them. You saw it for yourself, and it's right at the top. It's not even hidden. It's right there. Which,
people have to interpret it. I would venture to say the average person would not equate with adding debt. Can you hear me, Jim?
I can
All
now.
right.
Yes.
Okay.
Can you repeat that?
I would say that the average person that would read that would not equate treasuries with adding debt. In other words, they wouldn't make that connection, so they wouldn't think of that as a bad thing. It's through the educational process like we're doing here today that is hopefully going to wake more people up.
Sure, Jim. It's called treasury. Oh, it's a treasure. Oh, it's important. It must be valuable. It's a treasure. No, it's debt.
It's
Um,
U.S. Treasury. That's what the full faith and trust in the U.S. government.
Well, and yeah, and it's very clear the dollar's having trouble this year, that we're having trouble issuing debt. This is another way to maybe kick the can down the road. I think the bill serves several purposes, or is designed to serve several purposes, that being one of them. I suppose if it gives us more time and we can fix our problems, then maybe it's worth it. Or is it just going to continue to add more debt and just, we kick the can down the road, and ultimately the ultimate problem becomes a whole lot worse because we kick the can down the road farther.
Let me throw something out spiritual for you here. All right, because I think you and I both believe that there's still God has his hand in everything, and he's still on the throne, and he's still in control. What if, let me just throw out a what if scenario. What if, unbeknownst to the people behind this, that this would be the catalyst that did take us over? You talked about us being on the razor's edge. Well, that means that we're about ready to drop over into the precipice. And what if this was the catalyst that would crash the system? And Thomas Massey's bill went through, and could this be a turning point to go back in the right direction? That's my question. Or my point.
I would like to think that, but I don't. Can it crash a system? Because I know the trust to plan theory is you got to crash the system and then start over again. I would like to think that's true. Is this bill going to crash the system? Actually, there is a possibility because we are on a razor's edge. We talked about the dollar and the debt, several times here. This could be seen as an act of desperation. And people might just completely rebel against it. And that could push us over the edge that way. And so it doesn't serve the purpose of saving us our money. The money inflates and collapses. But the system of control is still legal. They can institute something else if they wish to.
Yeah.
So I'd like to think we're heading in the right direction. This bill gives me no confidence that we are. Completely unconstitutional, and everyone went for it.
And I'm not going to throw my hat into the ring of trust the plan. I don't trust anything with regard to. I mean, I'm a wait and see person. And, I'm sorry, it's just the way it is. I can't directly control what's going on in Washington, D.C. I can't tell them what to do. We can talk about it. We can do all this. So I have to wait and see what happens and how this all plays out. But you can look at different scenarios. And one of the scenarios is that this could actually work out in favor of going back to the Constitution. That's just one scenario. All things are plausible. All things are theories.
I'm more into betting on what is probable and not what is plausible. My analysis would say that's not probable, but I hope it is. But I think there are things that we as individuals can do to protect ourselves. And I think it would be wise that as individuals, we do these things. Earlier in this show, I talked about maybe I didn't, but we talked about it, I think the other day, Paxos Gold. No, we did talk about it early on. Paxos Gold stablecoin, for example, that's tied to gold. There are other things. I mean, the government is pitching it, the stablecoins being backed by dollars and treasuries, but the companies there are already some out there. Paxos Gold is an example. Their stablecoin is backed by gold. And if anyone's been paying attention to the gold and silver markets, they've done well lately. So I'd encourage people to consider doing that sort of thing, protect yourself in some fashion. The government's going to do whatever the government's going to do, but you don't have to be a victim. You can at least try to protect yourself. Maybe you make the right bet. Maybe you don't. Maybe you make the right decision. Maybe you don't, but at least you tried.
Yeah. Well, Jim, let me do this. Let me offer this here. It's 10:25. We probably should wrap it. We've already gone almost a half hour over our regular time. But give you a chance. Any final thoughts? Any final way you want to wrap up the conversation? Do you want to? I mentioned
Yeah.
you're discerning the times when we first started. Give you this chance to
Okay.
wrap it up however you want to.
So I need to do a disclaimer. This is not financial advice. Anything I said here to do today. Be like the Bereans in the Bible. You make your own. You do your own research. You make your own decisions and live with consequences. That sort of thing. But I would encourage people to continue to be alert, to stay active in the local communities, to try to be a force for good, and not just be a victim and drag your head down and say, "Oh, there's nothing I can do." James, I will say this much. For those who have been standing up for the last couple of years and maybe longer, the fact that they could not go directly to a central bank digital currency is evidence that those who have been standing up made a difference. I would suspect that they are trying to do this backhanded deal or this sidestep through private tokenization or private stable coins as a way to carry out their agenda because they couldn't do it front on. They have to do it through the back door somehow. So for those who don't think standing up makes a difference, I think this is evidence that it does. We have postponed things. We are slowing down the agenda. We're not stopping it, at least at this point in my mind, but we have slowed it. And so let's give ourselves some credit that way, and also use this extra time, who knows, as an opportunity to do good. And I would say lead people to Christ too, because the spiritual answer is the most important at this point. And I'm not sure if you're there or not. You all froze on me.
Yep.
No, use this time good. If you do want to discuss this more, I am doing a kind of a discussion group with at New Life Fellowship Church, 50 Sullivan Road, Bradford, PA, on July 29th. That's next Tuesday at 7 p.m. The church is not sponsoring it. I'm simply using their facility. I need to put that disclaimer in there as well. If you want to discuss this topic more, and we may very well know more at that point as well, we might see how the dots are connecting more. Like Jim and Fred, you asked questions. I didn't necessarily have the answers for everything because this is such breaking news. We might have more answers next week. So if you want to come on out there, come join us. We'll talk about it some more. And again, people can draw their own conclusions. My opinion, but I'm not here to tell anyone to believe anything. You decide for yourself what's truth. So
is this a local only group, or is it going to be online, or is this the first time you've gotten together?
This is the first time getting together. It just seemed appropriate when I saw this come through, and Jim, our conversation of me coming on here, and that just happened kind of simultaneously. It wasn't because of one or the other. I just thought, maybe I'll try this thing again, because some people, I put out a simple thing saying, is there anyone interested in talking about current events? And some people said yes. And I just picked this as the current event to talk about next Tuesday, just because It was in the news, and in my opinion, extremely important that people be aware of.
Well, Fred, do you have anything that you want to say to wrap this up too?
No, I'll wrap it up now. I'll wrap it up all in one. I'll say what I've been saying for the longest. I think the war has already started. Why am I echoing? Okay, but anyway, but on a different perspective, the way people are looking at it. I mean, I shared a thing on our thing showing you how many mosques are being built per state, and I think that this thing is bigger than what we think it is. I think that the war is going to be ultimately, like I've been saying, for the area, Christianity and Islam. New York has 570 mosques. California has 481 mosques. Texas has 391 mosques. And Florida has 50 mosques. All our biggest states are being taken over by Islamic movement. And that's going to be the ultimate war. Like Jesus said, whose face is on that money? Giving the man what is the man and what is under God is to God. So ultimately, this war is going to be a spiritual battle between Christianity and Islam. Those are the final. That's going to be the final step. And I think that's the reason why my internet is dropping, because I've been trying to say this the whole time. But the bottom line is, as long as your priorities are in order, all the rest is going to matter. And if it's the time, there ain't nothing we can do about it.
All right. Yeah, I follow what you're saying. We kind of got a little off topic there, but yeah. Jim, I will I'm going to mark it on my calendar, Tuesday at 7 at the church up there. So I'll tell you what, I would like to ask you one more favor, Jim. And first of all, I appreciate you coming back on. I think our listeners were hungry for this anyway, because we really haven't talked anything in the economic realm since you left. So they were needing this. Okay. And it was something I couldn't deliver. So I really thank you for, for coming on and doing all this. And I really would love to do it again if you're open to it. But also, just for old time's sake, would you offer the closing prayer?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay.
Hey, dear Lord, Heavenly Father, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, the Holy Spirit, our guide and counselor. Lord, we thank you for this past hour. We thank you for people wherever they may be that do care and do try to stand up and try to make a positive difference, that just haven't given up and said, I can't do anything. We thank you for those who you've given the courage and strength to speak up and to do things. Lord, we thank you for all the blessings you bring into our life, whatever they may be, because the world is a lot better than sometimes the news portrays it. And Lord, I do lift up that we can come together no matter what our backgrounds, our differences, and be on the same page when it comes to you and to what is best for this country. You know the answers, you know the solutions. I ask that you guide and lead us all in the same direction as to what you want to have happen. Thank you for Jim and Fred here for doing what they do. And Lord, for as Fred kind of alluded to, this is a spiritual battle. Actually, I didn't allude to. He came out and said it's a spiritual battle. Lord, we all need your strength. We all need your courage. We all need you to be a part of our lives. And for those that don't know you, there's always that simple prayer that just says, Lord, I'm not perfect. I've made mistakes. I'm going to humble myself before you, ask your Holy Spirit to come into my life to make me a better person, to make me stronger, and to help me walk in your ways. And Lord, I thank Jesus Christ for dying on that cross 2,000 years ago, for taking the punishment, living that perfect life and dying on the cross, something I couldn't do, and then rising again, definitely something I couldn't do without you. And, forgiving me for my sins and giving me a chance to be a family of God and to do your will, both here on earth and for eternity in heaven one day as well. So Lord, thank you for all this. Continue to be with Jim and Fred as they pursue their podcasts, 2 of them, I guess. And it's just, and all the truth seekers and freedom fighters that are out there. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Jim. And I'm going to ask you to stay on even after I end the broadcast here. I just want to mention next week, I'm still working on it, but we have a guest scheduled next week. Twyla Brace. She is going to be talking about, I already done it. As a matter of fact, you can go to our thing, and I've already done an event for that and advertised it a little bit. So make sure you catch us next week for Twyla and talking about the digital ID. And for right now, want to thank everybody for joining us today. Wherever you are, hope you have a wonderful day and be blessed.
Be a blessing to others.
There you go.
And be a blessing
right.
to others.
Yep. See you